Can everyone hear me okay and also see my slides?
Yes.
Great. So, hi everyone, I'm Hoda, and just like you guys, I'm also new to MLD, and I'm also starting remotely, so I understand the challenges you're facing, and I think I've probably picked the worst possible time slot. You guys must be exhausted at this point, but I try to keep it short. Just to tell you a little bit about what's happening in my lab. So I am actively looking for both PhD and master's students who are broadly interested both in machine learning and also in the societal aspects of AI and machine learning. So you may have seen that there is already a video recording of me on the orientation website where I talk about my research at a high level. So I'm not going to assume that you have seen that video, but I'm not going to repeat it either. So I thought, given that I have this extra 10 minutes, I'd focus more on some of the future research directions that I'm planning to pursue. So I'm going to sort of like spend like less than 5 minutes on a very brief overview of my field of research, and the other half talking a little bit about the near-term future. So at a high level, my work combines tools and ideas from computer science, including machine learning, CS theory, and HCI, and also social sciences, including economics theory, political philosophy, and beyond, to examine the societal, ethical, and economic aspects of artificial intelligence and machine learning through an interdisciplinary lens. So let me first tell you briefly about a particular ethical and societal concern that my prior work addresses, and that is the issue of unfairness in the outcomes or predictions produced by machine learning. This issue comes up frequently when machine learning is utilized to make high-stakes decisions for people in areas like education, employment, credit lending, welfare system, healthcare, and the criminal justice. So my work so far has focused on a particular type of unfairness, which I refer to as outcome unfairness. And it is concerned with the inequalities that arise when we have a decision-making system whose decisions in a way distribute some immediate notion of harm, benefit, or burden to people who are subjected to its decisions. And we can obtain this definition from the formal principle of distributive justice, which is a well-studied ideal in philosophy. So this type of outcome unfairness has recently been the topic of multiple controversies in the public domain. For example, some of you may have heard about the machine bias article by ProPublica, which investigated the criminal risk assessment software and basically claimed that the tool is biased because the false positive rate of the classifier at its heart is disproportionately higher for African American defendants. So these types of stories and studies have led to a very active area of research in the machine learning community that is concerned with quantifying and guaranteeing fairness for machine learning. So to give you a very brief overview of FairML, the literature has proposed various mathematical formulations of fairness and various algorithms to guarantee those notions of fairness. And as was mentioned earlier, it has been shown that simultaneously satisfying all these different notions of fairness is just mathematically impossible. So now let me mention the two principal sets of issues that my prior work in this area attempts to address. So the first set of problems that I've been concerned with is formulating fairness. How should we determine what's the proper formulation of fairness given the decision-making context at hand? And I have addressed this question both from a normative perspective, what are the normative assumptions underlying existing mathematical notions of fairness, and also from a descriptive perspective. For example, in the figure here, you can see a snapshot of an experiment we conducted on Amazon Mechanical Turk, in which we try to figure out which existing mathematical notion of fairness is the closest match to our participants' choices. So another question that my work has addressed is concerned with measuring the total unfairness. And this is assuming that we have somehow figured out what is the relevant notion of harm or benefit that we are trying to capture fairness as the equality of. So here, our core idea has been to make a connection to the existing notions and measures of inequality and welfare in economics. And through this way, we have been able to offer a well-justified offer well-justified families of measures of unfairness for machine learning that are also easy to work with from a computational standpoint. So, okay, that was my brief summary of my research and the area that I'm in. One issue that I'd like to emphasize is that the existing mathematical formulations of fairness for machine learning define it in a sense narrowly in terms of the predictions that are produced at the end of the machine learning pipeline. But really the societal implications of automated decision-making go well beyond concern for outcome unfairness and discrimination alone. So to be clear, these are definitely important considerations to take into account. However, they don't capture the wide variety of concerns that people have regarding the use of machine learning in socially consequential decisions. For example, numerous justice-related concerns go well beyond how the model we've trained makes predictions that are somehow disparate across decision subjects. Examples include, for example, lack of opportunities for participation by impacted communities or stakeholders, or the need for a more comprehensive view towards the long-term impact of decisions that our trained model makes, as opposed to just focusing on the prediction it makes. So these matters, in a sense, appeal to broader ideals of justice, including procedural justice. So let me tell you very quickly about procedural justice. So procedural justice concerns the process by which decisions are made, as opposed to just the outcomes. So to give you just one framework to think about procedural justice requirement, let me tell you briefly about a seminal work in social psychology. So in his work, Leventhal identifies 6 procedural justice principles. Most of them are clear from just the title: consistency across time and across consistency in decisions across people and across time, accuracy in decisions, suppressing biases that might influence those decisions, the decision process being correctable, people being able to voice their opinions and concerns and at least have representation in the process, and ethicality, which basically says the process should conform to standards of ethics. So if we think of these ideals in the machine learning pipeline, there are just so many different problems that we need to think about carefully. For example, consider consistency in decisions. Imagine we want to update our deployed predictive model, either because of fundamental changes to the underlying population or the data, or simply because we have figured out a better way to make predictions. If we want to make sure consistency over time and consistency in decisions made for similar people, then that's an additional requirement that we need to think about. How do we guarantee this requirement, for example, without slowing down the desired improvement in accuracy? So I've started doing some theoretical work in this area. As another example, consider the principle of accuracy. How should we choose the appropriate objective function for our optimization in a way that strikes the right balance between various considerations, such as inequality considerations on one hand, welfare considerations on the other hand? Or for example, not all errors are created equal. How should we figure out the right quantification for both the social and individual level costs of various predictions and errors? Bias suppression is another very important topic. Biases can creep into the machine learning pipeline in various stages of the process. Pretty much all the choices we make in this pipeline can have normative consequences, and we need to be able to figure out what are those normative aspects and how can we offer usable frameworks, usable participatory frameworks, so that other non-technical people or stakeholders who are impacted by these tools have a say in them. So I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. These were some of the directions that I plan to pursue in the near future. If you'd like to learn more about my research, please feel free to email me or visit my webpage. And if you're generally interested in learning more about the fair machine learning literature, I'm offering a course on fairness, explainability, and accountability for machine learning in the fall semester, which you're welcome to audit or attend. So I think that's a wrap, both on my talk, and also I think this was the last talk of the session. So I leave it to Diane to